Welcome to Speak Up SLC. I'm your host, Poonam Kumar. On today's show, we have Mayor Jackie Biskupski. Mayor, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. And viewers, for anyone that's watching, if you have any questions for the mayor, please send those to #SpeakUpSLC, or you can join us in our live chat room. But first off, we're going to start off with the mayor and just getting to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
So tell me a little bit about your background. Like, where did you grow up?
You know, I am from a very small town in Hastings, Minnesota.
Okay.
When I was there were probably 12,000 people there.
Okay.
I come from a small family. My parents were both raised on farms, and I had 3 siblings, and 3 girls, 1 boy, so you can imagine what his life was like. But you know, I was also kind of a rough and tumble kid. I hung out with the boys.
Now, are you the eldest in your family?
I am third.
You're the third.
Oh yeah,
Cool.
middle sister, you know, the troublemaker.
The troublemaker. So what got you into leadership? Like, I'm just thinking with your siblings and
Right.
going to school, like, were you involved in like student government or?
You know, I wasn't. I was very engaged in my friends and their lives, and friendship meant a ton to me when I was a kid. It still does. In fact, I'm very close friends with my high school friends. But for me, leadership came as something that I felt like it was always inside of me. You know, I was named after Jackie Kennedy. And that never left me, that my parents, had I been a boy, I would have been John. You know, my parents really felt strongly that that family meant something to this country. And that's the kind of thing that doesn't leave you. That's kind of a big deal to be named after a Kennedy, you know.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And so what really kind of ignited your passion for politics? You know, were you involved with community back in Minnesota? Like, were you know, you had your close friends and your family and that wonderful upbringing, but what really kind of got you thinking about politics?
You know, I was not thinking about it, and I was not engaged. It wasn't until I got here. You know, when I was growing up in Minnesota, it was a very democratic state, so my political beliefs were looked out for, right? When I got here, it was a different story. The Republicans had significant control over all the decision making, and I continuously was seeing that my viewpoint was not being taken into consideration with decisions that were being made that impacted my life and the lives of many. And then the Gay-Straight Alliance issue happened at East High.
At East High School.
And watching those kids take on adults, trying to fight for their right to have this club just to support each other so they could get through high school.
Right.
And failing because the adults couldn't understand the importance of it and were more afraid of what this club could mean or might mean.
Right.
And that was it for me. That's what engaged me, and that's when I started getting involved. And I helped on a campaign in 1994 when all this started, and then again in '96, and then my own races starting in '97.
97.
Yeah.
So you got engaged when you got here to Salt Lake City, Utah.
Yes.
And I hear that skiing brought you here.
Skiing
right?
brought me here. That's how I got here. That's true.
And what made you stay? So
Right, and then what made me stay is a real need for voices to be heard. And being a Kennedy, you know, I couldn't ignore that.
Right.
You know, I had the ability to really be somebody who was not afraid, who was willing to step up and say, we all matter, and we need to look out for everyone, not just some people.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what did it.
And so you took a lead. You ran
Took
for
a lead.
office,
I
and
did.
and now just kind of transitioning into your day to day. You know,
Right.
coming from small town Minnesota now to Salt Lake City, the capital of our state, and now managing and running Salt Lake City as the new mayor. What's your day to day like now?
You know,
it's obviously not a 9-to-5 job.
It's not 9 to 5, but I love my job. I love it. We have pulled together a very dynamic team, strong leaders in all fields, and we already had dynamic membership in our departments, people who are real experts and know the business we're in. Now we are really working through some difficult things, as you know. We're working through a budget that has a shortfall. We are working through the legislative session. And we had a lot of wins this session, big ones, on behalf of the homeless and the work we're doing there. But we also had some things that didn't go so well, you know, with historic districts in particular. And so, you know, work never ends, but yet every challenge we face, the police issue that's come up, you know, we are taking those on and really dialoguing around how to manage everything that's happening in a way that is respectful, is mindful of taxpayer dollars, is really policy driven. And the thought that's going into everything is really important and will have a long-term impact that I think will be positive.
And with you know, just getting into office, it's 3 months. You know, it's almost 3 months now, and I can imagine the transition it's not one of those things where you just step in day one and you're like, okay, we're ready to go. There's a lot of, you got to get your ducks in a row at the beginning. And so with that, you know, I know that you're trying to prioritize and organize as well too. And as you're building your team, we now have some new departments too, which is very exciting for Salt Lake City. And what's the impact on residents for example, now we have a Department of Sustainability, and this was something, you know, you're up at the ledge and your air quality was a huge focus. So tell me about the impacts of these new departments. Business and economic development is one, and then I think I just have to refer here to my notes, but it was the community and neighborhood development, which is a very new department. So tell me a little bit about that.
So we took our community and economic development department and decided to break it into 2 entities to really bring economic development to a cabinet level position and give it the attention it needs in order for us to create the jobs that we are needing in this community and build the revenue resources we need to have the kind of lifestyle we want here. Community and neighborhood is really kind of the nuts and bolts of what matters. You know, we're talking about the services that people really want that help a community evolve on its own as well, meaning like housing and housing opportunities and how our planning department is run and the decisions that are made there that affect how we develop our city, you know. But those 2 departments, I think, will really bring the attention they need and enable us to move forward in a much better fashion. Sustainability was a division and what is now going to become a department. And that I took on because the community throughout my whole career as a political elected official has been saying, we have to clean up our air. We have to make sure that we are mindful of our resources, that we are addressing what's going on worldwide with our climate. And so that has never changed, not for decades, that's a priority here. So that needed to be a department, a cabinet level position where I can work very closely with the director on the issues and make sure we are making significant progress.
And you have 3 new department directors that were approved by the council. And so the appointment process, you appoint individuals, and then they go through an advice and consent with the council office, and once approved, then we have a new department director.
That's right.
So we've got 3 new ones. So public utilities, and then we've got the community neighborhood development,
Yes.
and public services.
Yes.
So now these are individuals that I know that with public utilities, this individual, Laura Briefer, she's been with public utilities,
Yeah,
but
she
the
has
other
been.
2 were colleagues of yours back at the county, right?
Yes,
Okay.
people that I had worked with back
Good.
in the county, people who had expertise in areas where I knew that they would serve those departments well, and the fact that, you know, their 20 years of service is now in city government with us, each of them having 20 plus years,
Right.
and will be very helpful to us in addressing some of the issues that are facing us that are pretty significant issues within those departments that need to be managed. And then we're in the process right now of sorting through a bunch of resumes for the economic development director,
Which is a national search right
which
now.
was a national search. We have over 80 applicants, and we're pouring through those applications. Some amazing people are applying. I'm very excited to start that interview process and get that person on board as quickly as we can.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And just kind of going back to your day-to-day life as mayor, again, I mean, there's so many things I'm sure you've learned just coming from the county now with the city. What's so far one of your most memorable moments in the mayor's office?
So far,
I'm sure you have more than one, but you know, but just one that kind of sticks out in your mind, just a memorable moment that really you kind of resonate with, like, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
it is.
And-
You know, I'll tell you, this police shooting issue that's come up is difficult. It is. It's hard for this community. It's hard for my administration. It's hard for our law enforcement agency. But it's really forcing us to look at the concerns
Right.
that the public has. It's forcing us to look at policy and procedure. It's forcing us to look at process. And, you know, I feel like we are taking sound steps, allowing for this criminal justice system we live in to play out. But we're also already evaluating our own department. You know, how are we training? And finding that we probably have room to grow and to improve. And so we're taking this circumstance that we're in. We're reaching out to the community in a way that I think we never have before. We are engaging in a very public conversation, and multiple ones, where law enforcement has been meeting with the community to have open dialogue, really being astute about being advocates for the protest, you know, allowing people to have their voices be heard, not being threatened by that, but also realizing that there are concerns out there. And that as administration, as a law enforcement agency, we are going to make sure that those voices are heard. And not just on the streets in a protest fashion, but in our offices and in our public safety building, and in a council meeting. You know, we are doing a lot of public dialogue, and I think that has been extremely helpful to this whole community.
Well, that actually is a great segue, because we do have a viewer question.
Okay.
And this viewer question comes from Don Pink via Twitter. Okay, so I'm going to repeat this here, what we have. You campaigned against police brutality, yet haven't publicly dismissed the officers from the Rio Grande riot. Why?
You know, the criminal justice system has to be fair and just for everyone involved. Our officers are on paid administrative leave right now. The investigation is underway. We have been very, I think, mindful of making sure that we allow the 4 different entities. There are 4 entities that actually look at a use of force incident. That includes the Civilian Review Board, Internal Affairs Investigation,
The DA.
the DA, the Unified Police Department. All of those entities are looking at this same case.
Right. Which takes time.
It does take time.
We don't necessarily know that time frame.
Right.
But one thing is, as kind of a follow-up to that is, as the community is waiting to hear about what's next up on the investigation, what do you suggest? You know, you as the mayor, I understand we had a community dialogue.
Yes,
what do you foresee more of that happening here in Salt Lake City?
I do foresee that.
Okay.
You know, as soon as the DA is done with that investigation, which I think will be the one that takes the longest, because those other 3 entities do their part, that information becomes made available once the DA is done as well.
Okay.
And what I suspect is that we will have a very public discussion on this issue once we know what the decisions are.
Okay.
And I want the community to understand that our team, our council, our law enforcement leadership, our DA, everybody is listening, and everybody wants to make sure that this is a process that works, that truly is fair, that is just, and that when we get some of this information, that will be shared immediately, and we will make sure the community has an opportunity to hear and engage with us on it.
So it's an ongoing conversation.
It has to
and
be.
something that we'll continue to work on as a city with the community, and sort of building community alliances and working together on this topic. Now we are wrapping up on our interview. Is there any last things that you'd like to say to our residents before we end today's show?
Well, happy St. Patrick's Day. And just know that we are here. We definitely want to hear from you if you have concerns. We also want to know if we're doing a good job. And please communicate with us. We have hired someone specifically to do civic engagement, and that person is former State Representative Jennifer Seelig. And if you can't reach me directly, please reach out to her or my staff, and make sure that whatever your concerns are or your praises may be, that we hear from you, because that tells us how we're doing, and that's important to us.
Well, thank you so much. And for residents that are watching, please tune in next time. You can send us questions to the mayor at SpeakUp, #SpeakUpSLC, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure as well.
Thank you.